Good evening, everyone. With the time being 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024, I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order and ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, both video and audio, and will be posted on the district website. The first item on the agenda is the discussion and approval of the minutes from our August 20th, 2024 meeting. Is there any discussion around those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Scariglia?
Yes.
Member Blythe?
Yes.
Member Millet?
Yes.
Yes, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Good evening, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening. Thank you. Well, it's official. School has started and we're underway, and we're excited to have everybody back. It feels good to have everybody back and seeing the halls active. The first thing I'm going to speak about tonight is just to give you a quick personnel update. We have a couple of retirements that I believe we're going to celebrate at the next meeting, so I'm going to skip over that. For new hires at Park Ave Elementary, we have Tessa Stacy, who is hired as a preschool teacher. At the Webster Middle School, we have Nathan Arnold, who was a grade 7 ELA teacher, and Rose Deli Perez Caron as an ABA. And then at Bartlett High School, we have Mary Foley Powers, who was hired as a special ed teacher. She returned to us. She used to work here years ago. Daniel Gutierrez as a biology teacher. And I'm happy to announce that Peter Carney is going to be the interim assistant principal at the high school. And we have one of our favorite music teachers coming back to help us as a substitute. Miss Barry Baggett is going to be subbing at the high school. I can tell you the students were excited because many of them had Miss Baggett back in the day, and we're excited to see that back, to be able to support the music program here at the high school. So we welcome back and thank her for her help as we work through this transition over at the high school. So that was some exciting news, and I know Mr. Carney's excited to be in the interim assistant principal role. I think he'll do a fantastic job. He's eager to learn and grow, and has worked really hard over the past year and a half, going back to school, getting his CAGs, getting his licensure. So congrats to him. And then we've also had a few resignations. At Park Ave, we had a resignation of Madison Ouellette as an ABA and Anne Marie Cooper as a grade 2 teacher. And then we have Deborah Langlois, who was an ELA teacher, and then Gabrielle Conkran, who was a biology teacher. So we are still doing well with all these positions. All of them are pretty much full. We still had that math teacher where we had a staff filling in at that who was, who might end up in that role permanently. And we had one biology teacher at the one teacher at the high school, a science teacher, that we were still looking at numbers to see if we actually needed that position. If not, we might be coming back and asking to realign that somewhere else if there is a need. And we have no transfers at this time. So I would say overall we're in pretty good shape. We still need to fill some para positions. You can see the vacant positions below. We've still struggled with the school psychologist position. So I'm happy to say that we continue to have Alicia Zizwinska come back as a contractor to help us out. She's just fantastic, and she's just so knowledgeable and such an expert in her field. If we can only get her back here full time, that would be great. But she is digging in and helping us out again as a contractor, so we appreciate that support. And hopefully we keep looking, we keep advertising. We're doing our best to fill those positions, along with some paraprofessional positions in ABA. I did recently take out an ad in the local paper. Hopefully that'll get some interest locally and see what we can do to support people in those roles. Is there any question about personnel? No? So moving on to instructional leadership, as you know, we are off to a great start. We opened up our buildings for staff on August 26th for 3 days of professional development, staff meetings, and time for our teachers to set up the classrooms. The day started with breakfast from our cafeteria staff, and we kicked off our convocation at 8. I opened this school year up with a message of gratitude. I think, as I reflected on the upcoming year, we are so fortunate to have, and I noticed this with our new teacher orientation. Did we have some turnover in staff? Yes. But as you know, across the nation, there are people who are leaving education left and right. And what struck me this year, thinking about it, is that we have so many dedicated people here in Webster that come back, that want to be in Webster. We had teachers who were previous teachers in Webster who had left, who want to come back home and realize that this is a place they want to be. We've also had people that are now teachers who at one point were students here in Webster and have been out moving around, who've come back to Webster and wanted to teach in Webster and wanted this to be their place. And I'm just really grateful for all of our staff, for the collaboration, for the teamwork. I'm grateful for our school committee. You can go to any conference and you hear, whether it was in the business manager seat or in the superintendent seat. And one of the town officials just said that to me the other day. He's like, we are really fortunate. We work as a collaborative team. We work together. It's not about who's more important or who's doing what. It's like, what can we do what's in the best interest for our community? And I think that makes Webster special. And so I'm just grateful for that. And I wanted the staff know that I'm grateful for them for choosing Webster and for being here for our kids. That's important, and that means a lot when people say, I want to be in Webster. So I started off the year being grateful and saying thank you. And then we went into our instructional priority. We talked about what that's going to mean for us. And then we moved along into how can we be the ones for our students? What is our belief system? Do we believe in ourselves? Do we believe in the curriculum that we can teach the kids what they need to know so they can excel and move on? And how do the staff believe in the students so that they can excel and hold them to a higher standard? Which led into our guest speaker, Mr. Doug Loughborough. I know Linda and I know Ms. Siddiqui, you were here for the convocation, the opening, and I think I did not hear one negative word about the message that Mr. Loughborough sent. He is a local person. He grew up in Worcester County. He had many challenges. He, even homeless at one point. And he had people that believed in him along the way. He had staff that believed in him along the way. He had that special connection with that music teacher who pushed him and made him strive to be better. And he stood up to that challenge. And his book is Homeless to Harvard. And he lives and breathes that every day. And so I think it was a wonderful message. I think I thank Ms. Contos for putting me in touch. It was an old connection that she had from years ago in his college days at Northeastern. So he was happy to come back here and be home and speak and work with us, and we were happy to have him. And I think he just really kicked off our year with a good message. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add about what you heard that day.
I think it was great energy that morning, even just to start. And Dr. Luff's message was really on point when it comes to seeing the best in every person you come across, every student you come across, and finding, their potential and helping them to recognize it. So I found it to be really inspiring.
Correct. So I'm just really happy, and then that energy just continues throughout the school year. There is a really nice vibe that I feel in staff, that I feel in the buildings, and that a sense of excitement that I haven't felt in some time here. So I'm just really excited about this year, and I look forward to working through the year. Then on August 29th and 30th, we welcomed our grades 1 through 12 students here. It was great to see everybody here. And then on Wednesday, September 4th, we welcomed our pre-K and our K students. I didn't see any tears from the little ones. I might have saw a couple of moms with some tears in their eyes, but the vibe was really good and the kids were excited at the school. Also in instructional leadership, in your packets, you should have had a copy of our district benchmark calendar. As you know, we're doing start of the year assessments. They started this week. That what you have in there is a window, so principals can pick times within that window to test. So we are working on that this week. Is there anything else under instructional leadership that you have questions about?
Just have a question about communication strategy with regard to benchmarks. I know the beginning of the year benchmarks are just to sort of see where
That
kids are
baseline.
at. But I wonder about communicating that to families, again, going back to that homeschool partnership and just ensuring that everyone's on the same page and kids can, come in prepared to do their best,
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we can work with that around the schools and send out some noticing just so they know they're coming up. And we can definitely, all the schools have started them for this year. I believe they're working on ELA, I know at your building this week, right? And then math next week. So we can work on some messaging around. I mean, this is a baseline, and then we'll do the mid-year and end of year going through, but I will make a note of that. Okay. Any other questions about that? No. Okay. And then moving on, under other updates, I'd like to take a moment to congratulate our Michelle Bigelow. Miss Bigelow was chosen as the Blackstone Valley Hub Partner of the Year for 2024. Michelle attended an education breakfast in Mendon with Congressman Jake, I'm going to mess this name up, Auchincloss. Michelle was recognized for her accomplishments in the development of partnerships and the pathways at BHS. As you know, Michelle has been working extremely hard to work with community partners and getting internships, working on growing our PLTW program. And she has done a phenomenal job. We couldn't have a more dedicated person, so it's really nice to see Michelle getting recognition for her hard work, because she has worked really hard in making those partnerships, and she continues to work to expand those and give opportunities to our students here at Bartlett. So congratulations to Michelle. And then next, we sent out a family needs assessment survey that was sent out to families. This survey updates parents on our instructional priority and gives our families an opportunity to offer input and on programming and how funds should be utilized. As those surveys come in, we're gathering results, and we plan on reporting out to you those results at the next meeting. So we'll bring a summary of all of them for you. And then in other news, that our community partner, the Webster Library, reached out about bringing an author into the district. They have some grants, and they are looking at bringing somebody in. We are working with the middle school at this point, and she is. We confirmed that we would be excited to do that and have an author come in to speak with our kids and talk to them about writing and a book. So she is out looking for an author right now, looking at options, and we'll be bringing that to the middle school for Miss Peterson to have somebody come in for the students. And then finally, under other updates, I wanted to give you an enrollment update with some information. Right now, as you know, when our October 1st enrollment is what we go by for our school enrollment based on funding and everything to the state. So we're early in the year, but I just wanted to give you an update on numbers. Currently, right now, I have given you a breakdown by grades. I'm certainly not going to read them all to you, but we're looking at a total of 1,787 students. When I looked back at our October enrollment last year, it was $1,699 for October. We're still in the point that verifying, so if we're carrying any students with absences or kids that are in there, calling home, checking, making sure, why are you not here? Are you coming in? Have you moved? Transfer papers not going out? So this is something we're very actively doing within the first couple of weeks. So we will continue to do that, but it does feel like our enrollment is up. I know our enrollment was bursting. If you look at our kindergarten numbers alone, we're at 146. We've been averaging about 130. High school's just under 600 for their enrollment, and our high school enrollment is up at 423 at this point. So again, we got to refine and look. Those numbers are, will change, I'm sure, with students coming in and leaving, but that's just a baseline for us to work off. I did want to give you a couple statistics because I know Ms. Millette had asked earlier in the year, so it's kind of been a mental note and I've been tracking. So just to give you, over the summer, we've had 111 transfers out. Out of those 111 transfers out, 23 were at Park Ave, 63 were at Webster Middle, and Bartlett was 25. Out of Park Ave, out of the 23, 16 had moved. And I can share this with you. I'd be happy to share this document with you because I was working on it, so don't feel like you have to write. I'll drop it into the packet for you. 16 had moved, 2 were homeschool, 3 were private school, so that could be a St. Anne's or it could be like maybe a TECA or something like that. Of course, we had no Bay Path, and 2 were school choice. At the middle school, we had 63, but 10 of them moved. 1 was homeschooled, 9 chose private. Then we had 33 students right now at Bay Path and 10 school choiced. At Bartlett High School, we had 25 transfers. 12 have moved, 1 homeschool, 2 private, 0, of course, Bay Path, and then 10 school choice. 0 Bay Path, 10 school choice. Yeah, Bay Path we had 33 because 33 kids leaving the Webster Middle School to go to Bay Path. They never entered the high school. So those are 8th graders, so they count as a summer transfer. They don't count as a high school because they've never enrolled at the high school. Okay? Thank you for helping me clarify that. So out of the 22 that school choiced, it involved 14 families. Okay? The 2 at Park Avenue, that was a family of 4, so they had siblings at another school. So out of the 22 kids, that involved 14 families. 14 students went to Dudley Charlton Regional School District. 7 went to Oxford. Again, one of those families had 4 children, so that's 4 families, and 1 went to Douglas. So that accounted for our 22. So we're trying to track where our kids are going, why are they going. So that's more follow-up for me to do. Coming in to Webster, coming in. So new enrollments. So over the summer, we took in 247 enrollments. Out of those 247 enrollments, 63 were at Park Ave. Then we had an additional 110 for kindergarten. So you have some pre-K going up to K, and then 110 new enrollees for kindergarten. We had 36 at the Webster Middle School coming in, and 38 at the high school coming in. So that accounted for the 247. Out of that 247, we still have 29 unresolved. And when I say they're unresolved, is those are people who actually started filling out the enrollment process and never came in. So we're still tracking them. Some of them, we have some in the queue that are still waiting, that still maybe need medical information and things, information coming in. Some people decided not to move. They started the process and then they said, you know what, we didn't move. So we're working through all of those 29 to figure out. So I just wanted to give you that update. It's interesting data. It's always, when you hear rumors out in the community, you hear, oh my gosh, you're only going to have 30 freshmen this year. We have 122. We don't have 30. So it's a give and take. We lose some, we get some. But, it's now to take these, and then as we start to move forward, I'd like to dig in even more to find out, why are families leaving Webster? Are they going, are they just making choices to go to private schools or, Bay Path, we know why kids are going to Bay Path. They want a trade, but just narrowing down some of that information. Do you have any questions about that?
Through the chair.
Ms. Millett?
Yes, I have a couple quick ones, and one is, do you include dropout rate from Bartlett?
So these were just transfers out. These were not
Right.
dropouts. So,
Because that's an important number.
yep. I did not see any dropouts over the summer.
Well, that's good. My other question is, with all these families opting to go somewhere else, do you give them, say, some kind of survey to fill out to see why they're doing it, so we can?
No, we have not, and that's the follow-up I need to do as we go through. That's why I said there's more that we need to do now to figure out why. We've started tracking it, but now we need to know why. Why are they leaving? Like I heard, I asked questions, but it was just informal. I heard some of the Oxford was looking for football. They're in some football league and they wanted their kids to stay there. I've heard a couple kids going to Shepherd Hill to play football. They think their chances are better of getting recognized someplace at a bigger school district. But there's different, I haven't sent out a survey, but there is more work we need to do to figure out why our families are leaving Webster.
Well, if they all had the same survey,
I agree.
could correlate
Yep.
what the issues are,
Mhm.
or what their wants are,
Yep.
or
Yep.
what they need, so we could address that.
Yep. I agree, and I think it's a great idea. Yep. That is our next steps.
Thank you, Ms. Millett. Yeah, I think this is a really important first step to figuring out the state of the state and, comings and goings, and the next might be the why.
Yep, to dig in why, and then to figure out what we can do to remedy that. How can we fix that? So our goal is to have kids come here and stay here. We have so many wonderful things happening. So, what is it that we're not providing that they're looking for?
Thanks for digging into this. It's
Sure.
important.
Yep, I think it's important. So, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Perangeli.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Just wanted to also give a shout out for all the hiring that's happening, some transfers and stuff like that, but there were, over the summer, the list of open positions was significantly larger than what it is now. I know a lot of people participate in the hiring process, but a shout out to all of you that have made that happen. That's huge.
Thanks. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is our business manager report. Good evening, Mrs. Contos.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start with some updates on the Bartlett renovation project. I'm sorry I missed your tour last month. I'm glad you had an opportunity to go through all the schools, but in particular to see what's going on here at the high school. So in general, across the entire C wing, installation of structural steel is being installed. Focus in the basement right now, although I didn't get to go down because I had open-toe shoes on today. But they are working on the elevator shaft opening down there, some rough plumbing work, as well as installation of ductwork. On the first floor, in the gymnasium, I'm sure you saw, it's wide open, doesn't even look like the same place, but the rough electrical is being run. They're doing some excavation for the underslab, underground plumbing and electrical, as well as the fire protection installation. On the second floor, they're doing some more ductwork installation. You may see now that we have temporary window openings up, so if you drive around, you'll see that it's covered with poly right now, and they're doing some in-wall plumbing activities. Currently on the roof, the auditorium deck is being replaced and installing a new roof in that area. And across the site, there's some work going on installing light pole bases and some duct banks to support those additional lights on the campus. Lastly, we will be having a school building committee meeting next week, and at that meeting, we'll be looking to approve the RFP to go out for procurement for a technology integrator, as well as the technology needs that we need to get it up and running, particularly for phase one. So lots of good movement. We're starting to see a lot more contractors on site. The MSBA was here today. They come out on a monthly basis to review how the project is going. They sit in on our owner, architect, and GC meeting as well, and then they like to walk the property and see how things are going. So that went very well today. They were pleased with the progress, and things are moving right along.
Yep. She also stated that the MSBA was, when you pull up to the project, you see the outside, so you don't always see the work until you're actually in the building. And she was amazed at the progress in the building, especially in the basement. She said last time she was here, it was just wide open, and now there's slabs poured, there's walls up, there's framing that's almost done being poured downstairs. So she's like, she was really encouraged and happy with the progress that was made in the past month.
Yeah, momentum is building. We will be using George Street as overflow parking for our contractors. We don't have enough space on campus, and they are increasing because as work continues and we make progress. So lots of exciting things going on. Did you guys enjoy your tour? Good, good. All right, let's move on to maintenance updates in the other buildings. I know I left a big update for last month, and I wasn't here to give it, but we are continuing with the projects at Webster Middle School. The glass replacement is still in progress, as well as the HVAC controller upgrades. We're expecting that collectively, both of those projects should be done by the end of September, early October. They are adjusting their schedule now that school is back in session, and we're really trying to either have them work in buildings that, in rooms where there are no students and/or working off hours. So progress continues, and we're very pleased, I am, with the results of what we're seeing already. At Park Ave, just to make you aware, we did discover about 5 leaks within the building. That roof is still under warranty, so we have submitted some claims to have that remediated, and we're just waiting for our roofing vendor from Worcester to come out and service those leaks and address that. And I'm happy to report that starting this Friday, moving into next week, we will be installing the partitions in the library to give us some added breakout room space. We're hoping it can be done in one day, but we're expecting a little bit of overflow into the next week so that not only can they complete the installation, but we can get the bookshelves back in order, get it rearranged, get everything secure, and get the library up and running. Any questions?
Through the chair. So just, I want to backtrack to the maintenance for Bartlett and the overflow parking. I'm assuming there was some sort of communication that went out to the residents around there, or is it just they're parking at the old Polar?
So they're parking across from the soccer field
Okay.
at George
Okay.
Street, so we did
All right.
clear that with the recreation director
Okay.
down at
Okay.
the town hall, so they're well aware.
Okay.
The police are aware that it's happening. They know that they can't be there after 4 o'clock for when Webster Youth Soccer shows up for their practices in the evening.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Through the chair,
Ms.
it's not a question, but it's a comment. I asked the gentleman who took us around, because it's scary to see. If it's going to be enclosed by the first snow. And they said yes.
That's the plan. That is the plan. It should be enclosed by then. Yeah. Well, when that roof deck was open and we were getting some rain, that was also equally as concerning. But yeah, it should be closed in by then. Any other questions? All right. Let's move on to my next topic in the update. So want to just give you an update. We actually conducted an audit of our student activities account. The last time the district did an audit of the accounts was prior to 2020. We actually had an audit planned in 2020. It had to get canceled due to COVID hitting. And then we didn't have the same level of activity immediately following COVID, so we did resurrect that. We did 2 of the 3 buildings, mainly due to the volume. We don't have as much volume at Park Ave, so we focused in on fiscal year '23 for both Webster Middle School and Bartlett High School. And really 5 sort of key high-level findings and recommendations moving forward. First is that our operations manual is outdated. I think the last time it was updated was around 2016, 2018, and there's been some additional guidelines that have come out of DESE with respect to agreed-upon procedures and audit guidelines, so we will be taking a look at that. They also recommended that we incorporate some of our travel policy and procedures into that manual as well. So we'll take a look at what we have in place for our travel policies, see how we integrate that right into the procedural manual. And what we'll do is I'm anticipating that I'll be able to get started on this revision sometime in the October or November timeframe. This month we'll be focused on getting our end-of-year report completed and getting some budget activities started, because believe it or not, we'll be starting that before you know it. A couple other key findings is just the frequency of our deposits into our bank accounts. The recommendation is that we should be doing that at least weekly. So that communication has gone out to all the schools to make sure that we're, frequently making those deposits into the accounts, and we'll roll those expectations into the procedures as well. We identified that we have a number of inactive accounts. Some of them are classes that have already graduated for the high school, and other ones are just activities that are no longer active anymore. So all of the buildings are currently reviewing their activities, and we'll be making recommendations about which ones can be closed. I'll give you a little bit more of an update on that when I get to another one of the findings. We had one minor finding in one of the sub-accounts that hit a deficit, and none of our accounts should be hitting deficits. If they do, there is a recommendation that the advisor comes up with a plan on how we'll remediate that and submits that in writing to the principals. So that's another one of those findings. That's a good lesson learned. We'll incorporate that into the procedures as well. And the last finding is something that we did as a practice, but I don't think we were doing it consistently, and that is at the start of the school year, is having the school committee approve all the activities that we have these student activity accounts for. So going back to the inactive accounts, right now, all of the 3 principals, along with their administrative assistants, are looking at those activities. At the next meeting, I will bring all of the activities forward for the committee to approve. In those recommendations will be those accounts that we're going to recommend to close. If any of those accounts have a balance, there'll be a recommendation about which account to transfer that to. And we will be doing that on an annual basis going forward. So all in all, very insignificant findings across the schools. I really want to thank not just the principals, but the administrative assistants who really manage this process and track it. And they also do a lot of education to our advisors. And on that last note, I will mention we will be talking about doing a training and a refresher for everyone to keep them up to speed on what the expectations are in the guidelines that are set by DESE.
Member Scriglia?
Sorry, through the chair. So it's been about like 4-ish years since the last audit or the last planned audit. Did they have any recommendations for like a more regular audit or every 2 years?
It's usually every 2 years is the
Okay.
recommendation.
We were on target. We were doing them regularly, and then when COVID hit,
Right.
it got canceled. And then it was actually rescheduled and then canceled again because things were still slow, and then the auditor retired. So our accounts haven't gotten really active until probably last year.
Yeah. And I think there's about 1 or 2 auditors in the state who are doing this now.
Wow.
So it's tough to get it scheduled as well.
Right. I also think it's, when they talk about class accounts, challenge had been reaching out to the old classes, get them to come in and transfer money. So I think it's really key to get into the practice to get them as they're graduating, before they go off to college, before they go off to their debt, to make sure they transfer out. You have to have 2 class members out. That's theirs, goes with them. Because once they've moved away, once they're gone, sometimes it's hard to get them back, transfer them. Have to happen. That's a trick.
Thank you for those updates. Any other updates, Ms. Contos?
That's it for this evening.
Any other questions for Mrs. Contos? All right, well, thank you. The next item on the agenda is our principal report. Good evening, Mrs. Peterson.
Good evening, everybody. As Ms. Perangeli said, our opening of school went very well. We're into routines at this point, starting our first full week of school. As you also mentioned earlier, we're starting our benchmark testing with our iReady testing, and we're in full swing. Some upcoming events for us at the middle school. We have our open house this Thursday from 6 to 8, so parents are invited to come in and visit classrooms. The teachers will be working as teams, presenting 30-minute presentations. So they'll do a 30-minute presentation, have an open classroom, and then do another 30-minute presentation. The schedule has been sent out via Dojo, so families know that if you have multiple students, what the schedule is. So there are 2 grades presenting at the same time and 2 grades off at the same time. So that allows parents to go to multiple locations. On Friday, we have our first speaker coming in. We have a motivational speaker that Mrs. Bergeron, our Dean of Students, has procured. His name is Jesse Green. If you watch Chainsaw on the National Geographic Channel, he's a chainsaw master. He will not be doing chainsaw work at the school. However, he incorporates his work as a chainsaw master into his motivational speaking about goal setting, positive attitude, perseverance, courage, and kindness. And this will be for our 7th and 8th graders on Friday afternoon. So that should prove to be interesting and fun. Next Thursday, we have Picture Day already. And also next Thursday, our PBIS team is hosting a family barbecue. So we're hoping that families come and enjoy some hamburgers and hot dogs and some games. Unfortunately, it will be inside due to our restrictions on after hours outside, but we'll still have fun and hope that everybody comes. And then we also have our 8th graders will be learning about BayPath at the end of the month. BayPath will be coming to speak to them before they set up the buses to take a tour if they want to do that. So we are also working with Bartlett to schedule something hopefully before BayPath comes so we can get our kids over to look at pathways and examine what our own district has to offer for them. And then we are also in the midst of a major fundraiser for us at this time. We are doing a calendar raffle, so students are selling calendars for $20 a piece for 31 chances in the month of October, right? 31 in the month of October, to win prizes that were generously donated by many community businesses and people. So I thank the community for supporting that. Mr. Corsi spent a lot of her summer going out and speaking to businesses who did not hesitate to help us out at all. So please support that and our local businesses. We are going to be starting a new program called Bright, B-R-Y-T. It is a program that is run by the Brookline Center for Community Mental Health. I've been working with Sherry Hare, our Assistant Special Services Director. This is a program that I've actually seen in operation from visiting other schools, and it is a Tier 3 program that is open for all students, special ed, general ed. And basically, the premise is that when students are out of school for an extended amount of time, whether it be for mental health evaluation or hospitalization, or even something like you had, well, they don't keep you out very long anymore, but like appendicitis and they're out for a while. But so it's reintegrating students back into school in a structured way so that we're not just throwing them back in sink or swim. It's based on trauma-informed clinical support with academic coordination and family support. There's a significant mental health piece to this. So as I said, I've been working with Sherry Hare and also Kathy Barris. We're trying to incorporate it into our Journey program at this point. However, the two should really be separate programs. Journey is a tier 2, this is a tier 3. Brookline Community Health has actually recently reached out to Mrs. Hare and offered some monetary thank you, to assist us in getting started and get this set up so we can actually do it right and not kind of piecemeal it together. So as we work more on that, I will report out on how that is going. So I'll stop here to answer questions about that specific program if you have any that I can answer at this time.
Are there any questions from the committee?
Through the chair, sorry. I heard you mention the tier 2 and the tier 3, and just like thinking about keeping those two programs separate. I don't know how the schools would think about maybe doing like some sort of matrix or some sort of qualifier for who would be on track for the Journey versus who would be on track for the Bright. I find that to be useful when determining where a student would fall.
Yes, we've done significant work over the summer with Bright, lots of Zoom meetings, and this packet actually is our program. And we have a T-chart that defines Journey versus Bright with entrance criteria, exit criteria, and connecting staff members to each program. We have one counselor assigned to both programs right now because the way that we're doing things in terms of our sub-separate programs, this isn't sub-separate, but we have a counselor assigned to each sub-separate program, so the students are with the same counselor instead of 4 different counselors per grade level. So we will have a specific counselor set up for this as well. And then finally, just a review of our school improvement, sustainable improvement plan. We have a 3-year plan that started in 2022 and will end at the end of this school year in 2025. So I'll be working with our school council to review this and update it as the year goes on. But basically, we try to remain in line with our district priorities. We are continuing to focus on engagement and differentiation, which leads to student improvement. So our first priority goal was having safe and supportive learning environment. We continually work on that. We are continually working with the PBIS team, and as you know, we have qualified to move into Tier 2 support with our PBIS team, and the May Institute has been consulting with us on moving that forward with our PBIS team. And so that focuses on specific groups of students and classroom support. So Tier 1 is the overall building support, and Tier 2 is more group center. One of the other pieces of this priority, number 1, was increasing parent and family involvement. And we have been steadily increasing our parent involvement, and we continually look for new ways to invite families in. And so This is the first time we've had a kickoff with our PBIS team, so that will be exciting and next week to see that. Increasing student participation in clubs was another strategy in that priority. Last year, we had 15 clubs, and that's not including our sports teams. And many of those clubs were new and run by staff members without pay because that's the way their contract is set up in terms of starting new clubs. And in addition, those clubs were promoted by students. They come to us and say, we want to do a Dungeons and Dragons club, and then they find a teacher to do that, and then they do it. We are actually starting a cheer club. Tomorrow they're doing their first meeting, and what was the other club? Oh, we have a teacher doing a connections club. So it's just kids can come and hang out with her. They can do homework. They like to create memes with her. Last year she did a meme club. So it's whatever they want and come and hang out. So those are our two clubs that are getting started so far. In addition to our typical clubs that continue to run, like art club and robotics and drama club. So we'll continue to add to those. For priority number 2 was increasing student achievement. So as you know, we continue, that's always a work in progress, and we always continue to move that bar for students. We're working on continuing to increase our response to intervention enrichment groups, following protocols that look at data to group students for what they need. And we are starting the actual groups this week. We continue to work on tier 2 and tier 3 interventions to close gaps and focus on student-centered lessons. And then priority 3 was culturally responsive and instructional practices. And so we're doing really well there. We've, again, established extracurricular activities that promote diversity and celebrate culture. We meet monthly with our language acquisition team. One of the areas we still need to look at a little closer is examining the use of external materials that teachers utilize. So while we have really excellent district-approved curriculum, teachers always like to find that little extra thing to, give a little extra work on, and so they'll pull things from websites and self-created or borrowed from here or there. So we really want to look at those activities, assignments, et cetera, to make sure that they are culturally responsive and fall in line with state standards, that they are really holding students to a higher level of learning and that it's not just busy work. We continue to work on walkthroughs with the district, with the SSOS team, and today at our instructional leadership team, we continue to talk about what we do at the middle school. We call them micro walks. They're more focused with 2 or 3 staff members, really looking at the staff member who goes on the walk and how they can improve their teaching rather than the staff member we're observing. So that's what we're looking at. Oh, we have 4 priorities, I'm sorry. Number 4, communication with families. So again, sharing student progress. So your point earlier about talking about benchmarks, we discussed that actually at our opening day in terms of sharing out the results, but neglected to talk about the part where we tell parents this is happening. So thank you for pointing that out, and we will move forward with making sure that happens. B in this action steps of priority 4 was to plan monthly family events. I think that was a little ambitious. Monthly events are a lot. So, we continue to look at that. And we continue with our outreach and partnerships. Matt Free and the library are always great companions with us and great partners. We are actually going to be creating a committee to look at a futures event, which is the old school kind of job fair, but I don't want it to be a job fair where they go from table to table because they don't engage. So looking at a different kind of setup. And so we have many staff members that want to become involved in setting that up. So we'll be, again, reaching out to family and community members to come in and present later in the year. I'm done.
Thank you for those updates, Ms. Peterson. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Through the chair.
Ms. Millett?
School improvement plans are kind of my pet thing. As she says, I know. And we've had an issue with not being able to get committees together to do this. And then some of them didn't address goals of the district, but more teacher objectives. And some of them were principal objectives instead of goals for the school. So my comment is, I totally appreciate what you just did. And giving concrete examples of how those goals are being reached. And I really appreciate it. And it's a great time to have that information. And so we can see, I'd like to see that happen more often. So I just wanted to say through it, I am very appreciative of how you explained how the goals have been being done with those examples. Thank you. I would like, though, on another note, if we could get more information about Bright, like in our packet.
That was the presentation that Ms. Heer did last meeting. She
Right.
had that lengthy presentation on Bright, so if you want to look at that presentation, there should be information about the program.
It's in last month's packet.
Yep,
From August.
there was a
Yep.
big, and I think I put the presentation in there
I
because
thought
it didn't
was
work
in
online,
here.
so we
Right.
looked at,
Because
right.
it didn't
Yeah.
work online.
Yeah.
That's probably why I don't remember
Yeah.
it, because it didn't work online.
And I also want to give Ms. Peterson a shout out because I know across the district for times that there's been struggling getting community members in, getting parents in to participate in these councils. And you have successfully done that and had been the one school that has been posting and having regular meetings. I know other principals have asked, how are you getting that? How are you engaging and how are you getting that support? And they're actively looking to to have active committees. I know Ms. Nieves is already working on it. She reached out. I actually directed her to Ms. Peterson to have a conversation about, ways she's been successful and how she's been successful. So thank you to you for that work. It is really appreciated. So, and it's important work. That engagement is important.
Yeah, just through the chair.
Member Squiggly?
And just thinking about the community engagement, I know it's a lot to plan maybe as a school itself, but thinking about maybe the PTO or the CPAC and offering the facility of the middle school as like the place where they could hold their events, or maybe they want to schedule a event, have it at the school, and maybe engage other families or more families that way too. Kind of say, we might not be able to plan something, but maybe the PTO or the CPAC can have an event and engage people that way too.
Yep.
Because we have in the past, like they've had like movie nights on the lawn, and set up a projector, the PTO, and it's a real kicker for the community to come in. I know with
We have an active-
triple E. But-
We have an active PTO at our elementary. We haven't been able to have a PTO at the middle school. There hasn't been that kind of engagement.
Right.
And our CPAC, we've struggled having a CPAC and somebody chairing that. We've reached out to multiple members. Ms. Barris is working on it again. And we're trying to be creative in how we reach out to our families and when we reach out to our families. We've had the same issue with LPAC, but we noticed last year something that was very successful. You know, we've had small turnouts. We've offered dinners here. We've had pizza come in for a meeting. We've had joint meetings because many times, you know, they might be special ed and L at the same time to try and pick up some engagement to see if we can increase our participation. But last year we had a breakfast at our elementary school, and we had the largest turnout we ever had for L. We had 45 parents at a meeting that we were able to engage. So looking at different ways that we can get that involvement from parents, but unfortunately we don't have an active PTO at the middle school. And our elementary is just really has been active for a couple of years now, trying to build its program.
All great things. Thank you for your updates, Ms. Peterson. No other questions or comments from the committee? All right. Well, the next item on the agenda is an update from our student representative. Welcome to Hope Cooper, our new student rep.
Hello. I want to start by talking about some of the feedback I have gathered from my peers and myself as a student. So far, I have witnessed that everything's gone smoothly. We've been introduced to a few new changes in the school district and in Bartlett alone. Some of the changes that we've seen is in homeroom we went over the new handbook and everything that's changed in the handbook. We spent a few days, the first full days that we had, going over the handbook entirely. Some of the key points that students should know and families should know are that the failing average has gone from a 65 down to a 60, which gives students an opportunity to have a little bit more leeway and work with teachers to ensure that they pass their classes. We've also reintroduced the lockout policy, which is now going to be going by the journey policy, which entails that students that do not get to class on time will report to a specific room. They will wait there until their parent is called, and then they will be admitted back to their class. After a certain number of offenses, there will be consequences. We've also had changes in administration, obviously. I've been speaking to Ms. Nieves a lot recently, the past few days, and she's very eager to be the standing principal. We've also introduced digital hallway passes instead of paper copies. And in comparison, last year we had agendas. This, I think, will be more efficient because students often lost their agendas last year, and they didn't have an option to get a new one. And then people would steal the agendas from other students. And I think the digital hall pass will make it more efficient, and it'll also limit the amount of students getting out of class. It was explained to us that it will also be tracking the times that we go out and how often we go out in certain classes. So if we're leaving at a specific time every day or leaving a certain class every single day, it'll be flagged to administration so they can address this problem. We've also had a change in cell phone policy. Cell phones are not allowed, and the only time they are allowed is in passing periods and at lunch. Across the board, from what I've seen, all of my teachers have been addressing this and enforcing this very strictly. I personally have not seen anybody getting rid up for this quite yet, but I know that a few students have. For the student body, we have started our iReady testing. This week we had ELA, and makeups for this will be September 11th through the 13th. We've also been discussing National Honor Society invites. We're still waiting on the release of updated GPAs, but once those are finalized and sent out, invitations for National Honor Society will be sent out. The goal as of now is to hopefully view them by September 16th. We also have last chance schedule changes for this week, September 12th. The last day we can put in any papers regarding any changes we want to make to our schedule will be September 12th. And then regarding internships, I'm a student who's going into an internship. We have received packets of information and permission slips for any student that will be or is like aspiring to have an internship this year. They are expected to be turned in as soon as possible so we can get the process started. And as of right now, Miss Bigelow is reaching out to any all the like possible internships that we as students may have. And she's working very hard to find everybody in the program a internship that they are interested in and that they feel they will be inspired by. And I'm very grateful for this as somebody who's also going into an internship. We had our National Honor Society and Student Council. They both had their first meetings this past week. And then regarding the upcoming events that we have a senior college / job fair on October 2nd. We have our senior breakfast on October 3rd. And then we have homecoming festivities from October 10th to October 14th. And that's about it.
Thank you, Hope. We're really happy to have you here this school year. The next item on the agenda under old business is a monthly report on fundraising applications. There's a lot of fundraising applications in here. Just a quick reminder, fundraising applications are approved at the building level, so it's the role of school committee simply to review them. And I see one in here from the Gridiron Club, at the high school, the student council at the middle school. It's going to be selling feathers to feather a teacher. The Bartlett volleyball program is going to be selling snacks. The grown-ups are going to be doing the selling. And then a number of Park Ave PTO fundraisers, the Fall Book Fair, a coin drive, Meadow Farms catalog, and of course the Fall Festival. So all great things happening across the district. Any questions or comments from the committee about that?
Who's the chair?
Ms.
I
Millett?
don't have a comment about that, but I do have one for Hope.
Oh, did I miss you? I'm sorry.
And, well, I guess Hope and the superintendent. I am curious to know how students are affected by the renovation, positive or negative. So is it possible to do a survey? Or if you wouldn't mind having it announced some way for positive or problem students have emailed to you so we could see what concerns there might be with people, with the students who have to deal with every day.
Yeah.
If there are any issues that need to be addressed.
Well, we have a mechanism, I'll let you speak to the student.
Yeah.
We have a mechanism in place that if there are concerns at the school from any staff or any students bring anything up to the school, they can report them right away. That gets flagged to our team, who looks at it and addresses it. But I would also be affected because I think I know, but I want to hear it from you.
As of now, I'm not fully, I'm not really in that part of the building a whole lot. I know that as of right now, especially for the freshmen, they're transferring between the modules and the building very well. There hasn't been any issues really on getting to class on time, and I think that's telling for the freshmen because if I were a freshman at that time, I probably would have struggled a little bit. I know that we had a fire drill as well this past week, and I heard a few students discussing how there was confusion at first regarding how they would get out of the building. I believe this was rectified. Besides that, it's really not that big of a deal. I don't hear a lot of construction. Last year I definitely did during my art class because it was right on that wall. But we don't hear a lot throughout the day. Nothing really interrupts our learning. And there's a lot going on a lot of the time. When we're outside transferring between classes, if we have to go through the modulars and then to the building, we can see it and hear it. But we haven't had any students, from what I have seen or heard about, have any issues with getting lost or getting stuck going between classes.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
You just
Thank
kind of
you.
supported my beliefs, because we've worked really hard
Good to hear.
Yeah,
we've
great
worked
question,
really
too.
hard to like separate the construction from what's going on. I mean, and they've done a great job. The team, the construction team, has done a great job keeping everything on that side. I think the adults were more nervous than the students, especially last year with the transitioning between the modulars and stuff. We have had no issues with that. The kids go out, they do their thing, they come back in. I think they enjoy the time passing, except when it's raining. And we have a bunch of umbrellas set up for them so that they can take with them. But anything I've heard has been actually positive. And I've spent a lot of time over at the high school, especially since the start of school. I go and do lunch duty a couple times. I hang out, I talk to kids. And every time I ask, when are we going to be able to, the question that I get is, when are we going to be able to get into that side of the building? When are we going to see what it's going to look like? Is it going to have this? And then when I say, the gym should be done in April, or the cafeteria in April, that gives them a level of, because you can actually see that it's going to be happening sooner than later. It was something talked about, now you see the progress. So I think
Yeah,
it's been,
And I think what I'd add is, certainly the modulars are a big hit.
they are air conditioned.
Climate control, so I think that's a big hit for many people. On the positive side, I would say, maybe they haven't expressed this, but I think the hard part is with the section that we're doing first, which is our community wing, is that they have lost their gymnasium, the auditorium. So for school functions, for basketball season, volleyball, they're getting displaced into other places. So, if I'm reflecting on as a student, that probably be with the one thing that, you are missing out on. But luckily, we will have that wing open by next April. But I'm sure that that's, everyone likes to be in their home gym.
I think the tricky part's going to be the second phase. That's going to be the tricky part. I think, and again, just because I think the adults are probably more nervous than the kids, because now it's going to be a triangle, right? Now everything's on this side of the building. That side's closed off. So the next phase, the middle part's going to be closed off. So now you're going to be going from this end to the modulars, from the modulars to that end. So you're going to be going around the construction. So I know the kids are going to be fine, but I think that's for the adults to worry about, right? And to make sure that we have all the security and the safety precautions in place. But the students are awesome. I call them kids, but they're young adults, and they are awesome. And they just, I couldn't be prouder.
Says a lot for our students' adaptability and also for this construction company. That
I
is
think
happening.
The great thing with them is they've been super flexible. They're very aware of safety around the campus, as well as how we communicate. We are regularly keeping the middle school in the loop on things that could potentially impact them. As an example, they will be taking a partial lane starting this week behind the gymnasium. So we'll have one lane that will be going out. So when you take a left, you're coming in as a Bartlett parent and leaving, you'll only have one lane over there. That'll only be for about 4 to 6 weeks, but they've really been working with us in terms of delaying things in the schedule. We certainly didn't want any of those lanes taken away during the first couple weeks of school when we're still getting established on new routines. As everyone knows, the beginning of the school year is when the traffic is the busiest over those first few days, and then it starts to settle down and we get into a routine, and I think we're getting there. But all in all, the kids are pretty resilient and adaptable.
Thanks for that perspective and for the question, Ms. Millett. So the next item on the agenda under new business is Unit B, request for intent to bargain.
Yep.
Mrs. Perangeli?
Yep. In your packet, you should have a letter on Unit B. As you know, we are negotiating all of our contracts this year, so it's going to be busy times. So they've sent in their request to negotiate, so the school committee usually has a representative there on behalf of the school committee that'll work with the negotiation team to set up a new contract. So if you'd like to make a recommendation, I don't know.
Through the chair,
Ms. Blythe?
I would like to recommend Linda Millett for this negotiation.
Right, is that a nomination?
It is.
All
It's
right.
a nomination.
Second?
There's a nomination and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Desiree, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes. We skipped right over you. Yes. So the nomination passes. Thank you, Ms. Millett, for stepping up to participate in the negotiations for this contract. It's appreciated. And the next item on the agenda is a review, transfer, signing of warrants, bills, payroll, and vouchers. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
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 Yes. Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.